Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Sunday, December 8th, 2024. It is the 18th of Sagittarius, and it is the day of Santa Claus. In our astrology, the sun is in Sagittarius, mutable fire, representing adventure. The moon is second quarter Pisces, mutable water, representing intuition. Mercury is retrograding in Sagittarius, mutable fire, which represents travel disruptions. Venus is in Aquarius, fixed air, which is to be intellectual. Mars is retrograding in Leo, fixed fire, which represents tempered action. Jupiter is retrograding in Gemini, mutable air, which is to broaden perspective. Saturn is in Pisces, mutable water, representing nostalgia. Uranus is retrograding in Taurus, fixed earth, representing rebellion. Neptune is in Pisces, mutable water, representing intuition. And Pluto is in Aquarius, fixed air, representing reformation. And our retrogrades for Mercury, it's all about rethinking those communication patterns. For Mars, reconsider what you really want. For Jupiter, reconnect with your true path. Uranus, reconsider how you rebel. And Chiron, restore the heroic spirit. For our moon, we are currently in a phase of waxing gibbous, so it's time for us to root into our plans and to refine where needed. For the Pisces moon theme, it's all about empathy and otherworldliness, being able to tap into our own personal compassion in order to show goodness to others, also remaining quite connected to what's going on the other side of the veil. That's very Pisces. So the Pisces moon is reinforcing the Sagittarius sun's desire for exploration, albeit the lunar Pisces does infuse that spirit with some additional sensitivity. You're going to be experiencing, if you indulge that sense of adventure, things a little bit more emotionally than what you might ordinarily do. Instead of it just being, this is new and exciting, of this is new and it's really touched my heart, and now it's all these other layers of experience are coming into play, more along those lines. Now, literal travel may prove difficult with a Mercury retrograde, but even if you are feeling your adventuring foot getting itchy to wander, nothing is going to prevent your ability to explore through study. And, we all have YouTube. We can look up videos on pretty much any subject imaginable. And if that's all you can manage, this afternoon, then that's what you can manage. And at least, hopefully the technology is behaving itself a little bit more, just because I really feel like a lot of the manifestation of the Mercury retrograde energy is very much on travel. So just something to come in mind. But then again, that might just be how it's impacting me and mine. So bear that in mind. Next, our tarot for today, we have the Nine of Canes. Nines represent foundations, leadership, idealism, and completeness. And the suit of Canes aligns with the suit of Swords and the air element. And the keywords for this card are anxiety, suffering, mental anguish, disturbances. And we see our poor person sitting up in bed, probably ought to have been asleep hours ago, nervously chewing on a pen, jotting things down. There's all kinds of bits of ephemera scattered around the bed. Just nothing about this scene indicates comfort or warmth or any kind of confidence. And there's any number of reasons why we might be experiencing a bit of that today. Perhaps with the holidays coming up, maybe there's relatives who might make an issue of different religions within the family, or just make an issue because they're that sort of relative. They're going to find something to pick on everyone else for. Some people are just like that. It's just the way that it is in families sometimes, but that doesn't necessarily make dealing with them any easier. There's other reasons why people might feel anxious. Economic concerns are huge for everyone right now. So however this is manifesting, it might feel just absolutely overwhelming, particularly if it's really honing in and impacting you today. The thing to do is really to think about your coping skills, making time for meditation before bed, perhaps not taking in more information that's going to heighten your anxiety. To try to interrupt your thought process, because if your thoughts are kind of circling the drain on a particular issue that's been bothering you, and they just go round and round and round and round, then find a way to disrupt that cycle. Anytime you can force your brain to change the subject, will be for the better. And maybe this is where we can take that that energy from Pisces and Pisces moon and the Sagittarian sun and their need for adventure and exploration. Maybe we can really use that as to our advantage for stress management today. If you're really worried about something in your personal life or something to do with work or anything else, suddenly looking at a video that has to do with space exploration, or what was going on in the Peru and 3200 BC, or whatever else, is having something that is completely unrelated to what's bothering you, that's interesting, that captures your attention and imagination, that can help disrupt that cycle, and that can minimize the impact of this energy if it's floating in the air a bit heavy around you. Then today's Celtic triad: three special virtues of wisdom: generosity, industry, and prudence. So, for generosity, one piece of wisdom involves understanding the role of planting seeds for later harvest. And generosity is one of those seeds that yields good relations with others, particularly over time and down the road. It's something, if we make it a practice to be generous, even if it's only being generous in our spirit, of not immediately leaping to the conclusion that someone meant something in the worst possible way, or leaping to the idea that someone was intending to hurt you, and maybe they were just being thoughtless, or maybe they had zero awareness that something they said or did was going to bother you in any way, or just realizing that sometimes our sensitivities are actually hypersensitivities, and it isn't the rest of the world that needs to accommodate us. We need to realize that what we're feeling is disproportionate to what's going on, and it's not really a reaction of what's going on. There's other things going on in the brain. Showing that generosity and not putting our our junk onto them and trying to make them responsible for it, that is also showing generosity of spirit. And that, of course, shows wisdom and maturity when we do that. Then industry: only work produces results, and intelligence knows it, but it's wisdom that conducts itself accordingly. Anyone who has, a reasonable use of their brain cells is going to understand that work equals result. Um, and any number of people can actively acknowledge that that's how things are. That's just an immutable law of the universe. But it takes the person who's wise to realize, okay, so I need to get up off the sofa. I need to go do something. I need to work towards the manifestation of my goals. And to my brother and sisters in the craft, even if we have set forth some kind of spell or ritual to gain us a result, it is very important that we don't send mixed signals to the universe, and that we actually work in our mundane lives in harmony with that magical purpose. When you have these conflicts, you're not going to get the result that you want, or you're not going to get the full benefit of what you're trying to do. So industry is very important. And then prudence. There's so many uncertainties in life, but and more often than not, acting with a sense of caution is fitting. There's also related to prudence is the idea of understanding what the lay of the land really is. Looking at the details of a contract, dotting the i's, crossing the t's, making sure you know exactly where things stand, what is expected, what is required, and what the intended result is. Prudence can displaying it, whether it's in business dealings or with who we choose to get involved with in our personal lives, for any purpose, not just romantic involvement, but who we're involved with. Perhaps we have an interest in doing particular charity work. Well, we know that not all charities are created equal. Some, talk a good line, but they don't actually do the work that they were intended to do. Or, someone who seems like really nice, but then, 5 minutes later you discover, perhaps not so much. Prudence will dictate how we get into these connections in perhaps a more gradual and considered way, and that can save us heartache down the road. Then from there, our correspondences for today are on the theme of beauty. We have the color gold, the plant is the golden seal, the animal is the goldfish, and the crystal is topaz. Creating beauty is something that is always going to be possible for us, even if we are in modest circumstances, even if we are enduring difficult times, even if we are really trying to, we all we have to work with is what's immediately around us. We can still make an effort to make something beautiful out of that. And certainly the attitude with which we approach adversity can show a beautification of our character, saying, well, okay, this is what it is. And while I do feel a certain way about it, I'm going to remain focused upon what I can do to make the best of the situation, and ultimately how to get into better circumstances. That is beautification of character. And it also makes things that are difficult a lot more endurable. Then for today's hearthkeeping hint, it is about tending the home fires. If you are so fortunate as to have a place where you can actually have a proper, real burning fire, whether it's in your home or in a fire pit outside in your yard, either way, just be aware that different woods have different magical properties, and you can use those with intention to attract energies or repel them as you require. So I just looked up the associations with some fairly common woods. Oak, of strength, of course, luck, health, protection. For pine, it's all about money, banishment, and healing. Hickory, abundance and leadership. Maple, love and money, and walnut, health. So if you know what wood you are burning, just make use of its ambient magical energies and give it a job to do. No sense letting that go to waste. Now, for today's practice, our little Yule tidbit is that the winter solstice does coincide with Earth passing through the Ursid meteor stream, and right around solstice night is when things are just about supposed to be at their peak, if I'm remembering things correctly. So, if you're able to get away from the light pollution, maybe take a gander outside, see what pretties we are going through as we get closer to the solstice night. Then you might greet the dawn. And then think about the old man winter archetype. What wisdom do you think can be gleaned from this particular idea? And then, for a bit of meditation today, you might focus upon the light's coming return and every possible meaning of that phrase, from the literal to the deeply metaphorical. Just wherever your mind leads you, see where that takes you. And then you might also choose to carry or to wear carnelian stone. In our creative corner, it's all about the Yule tree, and we have so much scope for creativity. Even if we are having to make our ornaments ourselves, salt dough, and a little bit of artistic finagling can go an awfully long way. And just we have so many different mythologies to draw upon. Certainly, as the solstice is all about, what the sun is doing, having solar symbols involving some of those solar colors, the yellows and the whites and the golds and very warm lights. We can make it that a very deliberate thing we add into our trees. We can incorporate natural elements. Holly berries that we happen to pick, any if we are able to come across some mistletoe, although do be careful with the handling and make sure none of your pets and none of your toddlers actually see fit to eat the berries, because that's not that's not good. They are toxic. So exercise extremely good judgment with that if you do use any of that. But also, gathering branches that perhaps have the juniper berries, especially if you're using blue in your color scheme this year. That's such a beautiful, beautiful touch. And just use your imagination. See what's available around you. I actually saw a video where one lady had some interesting looking twigs she picked up from her yard, and she was sticking that in her tree. I wish I remember what channel it was on, but it wasn't a channel I'm familiar with. So the name escapes me, but she just stuck that all over with her tree, and then the effect was just very relaxed and kind of half wild, but it was really, really beautiful, and it was just a nice touch. So, if that appeals, if you like a more rustic aesthetic, that's something you can do. You can make ornaments that are carved with agam or runes for posterity, protection, luck, any other intentions that you feel would add to the whole Yuletide ambiance. You might have representations of the Fae and deities that are associated with Yule. And you could create those old fashioned homemade garlands of orange, cranberries, and popcorn. You might do that a little bit closer to time so they're still in fairly good shape, because, they can get to looking a little after a while. So that could be something that you do maybe last minute, or maybe as part of your rituals in preparation for your Yule ritual. Lots of different things we can do. And I would encourage you to don't pay so much attention to trends. I mean, they are what they are. If it appeals to you, have fun with it, but don't feel bullied by trends. That's more so what I'm saying. And also think about the colors that are already in the room where you have your main tree. Uh, if you could have the most gorgeous, gorgeous thing envisioned for the tree, but if it's out of harmony with the rest of the room, it's not going to have the impact that you have. It's not going to create the atmosphere. I mean, maybe you have a room that is, very orange and yellow and this and that. Incorporate that into the tree, infusing it with it. You'll have a much better result than if you did something, that clashed. Just to bear that in mind as a practical matter as well. Then our journal prompt for today is define light in the context of magical energy. Now, this will be much more relevant to my viewers who practice the craft. However, it could be an interesting thing for you to look into if you know that if magical practice isn't part of what you do, which is perfectly fine. Not everyone within the pagan world has to or needs to be dabbling in that kind of thing. But it's still interesting to know a little bit because I find a lot of some of the disharmony between the witches and wizards of the pagan world and everyone else who might be more devotional pagan or however they are defining their practice. A lot of it has to do with not really understanding the worldview, the mindset, and the level on which people who practice the craft interact with and perceive to different forms of energy. So this can be just a little fun thing that you can educate yourself about if this isn't what you do. So, on that note, have a magical day, everyone. I wish you bright blessings and all the joys of the season. Have an excellent rest of your weekend. And of course, I will see you here bright and early tomorrow for the next edition.